All right, welcome to episode 6 of Time in the Round. I'm here with hopeless Azalea player Hayden Dale. Hayden, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Brendan. I wondered where that would be going, but I'll take that one. I'll take that one.
Yeah, it's not so bad. I'll get some more spicy roasts, some real personal stuff for the future. But I think I keep it a bit light. I need you to stick around. Anyway, Hayden, I think the first road to nationals was only a few hours ago. Friend of yours did pretty well. You want to give me a breakdown of how the event looked?
Yeah, I just had some correspondence from some of the guys back home in New Zealand. The first road to nationals, I guess, first road to nationals of this national season for the world, actually, time zone wise, based on New Zealand. So, just for context, we're recording. It's your Saturday morning in the US, and it's my Saturday evening in here in Australia. And yeah, first road to nationals wrapped up. Dan Mackay, who we've had on the podcast before, made a top four playing Chain. And so did our other friend Mo. So pretty good result from both of them. They actually both top four the ProQuest in Auckland Calling as well. So good, back-to-back repeats for the guys there. And
What deck at the PTI?
What's that?
What deck did they top at the PTI?
Chain. They played Chain. So
running same deck for over a month.
Yeah. Not 100% sure on the what the final changes were. I had to look back about that list and what this list was. But yeah, so congrats to the guys. Obviously already secured their Nationals invites day one of Road to Nationals season. They've actually got a double hitter, so they're playing another Road to Nationals tomorrow. I believe this Road to Nationals was 72, 73 players, I think. So the store in New Zealand where it was run had actually hired an external venue and ran it there at like a bridge club. So sounds like they had a good time. And as we're recording tomorrow, there's another one. And of course, tomorrow, you'll be at your first Road to Nationals as well, won't you, Brendan?
Yep, I am driving to Houston here in about 3-4 hours. Or actually, 3, leaving the house, driving down. Going in a day early, gonna go experience the sights and beauty that is Houston, Texas, so we'll see. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It is 64 players, so it is a larger Road to Nationals.
Yeah,
it's funny you mentioned hiring out to an event center, because I think if they did that here, we'd probably have like a 200-person event.
Yeah,
because I know that this one was like a lot of people are not getting into this one. This is a bigger one, so 64. It's been real challenging to get into these. There's actually a Road to Nationals today in San Antonio, which I'm not going to. A few hours away from Houston, but I do have a friend that's going. But apparently I heard there's a lot of Prism in Houston, which doesn't surprise me. I expected either, the regions in America, I think, are generally polarized by how many Prism players or how many Dorinthia players they have. That tends to be the identity.
Yeah.
So, a lot of Prism, not too surprised. Not very happy. I mean, I don't like the class. I feel like I can just get high rolled to the bank.
But it is your class. It is Brendan's class, as we all know. And one day Brendan will follow through on that, but we'll have to wait and see. Speaking of metas, though, I know in New Zealand for this first Road to Nationals, there was quite a bit of Prism there as well, I heard. So I think Prism, Katsu, Chain, Bolton were quite popular. I think the top 8 breakdown, as I understand it, was 4 Chain, 3 Katsu, 1 Prism. So it sounded like
4 Chain.
What's that?
Sorry, I was just kind of like repeating it in my brain to figure it out. But I'm just wondering about the Katsus, like how many. Obviously, there's 2 very polarizing archetypes in Katsu. So I wonder how many were kind of like Kieran's list, and how many were kind of like Winton's. So control versus mid-range aggro.
Yeah, I believe they were all mid-range aggro decks. So no control decks into the top 8 is my understanding. So it sounded like maybe a tougher day for some of the control decks, but not sure. I
heard there wasn't too many. So
yeah, exactly.
I think it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
You know what? I think what's funny is that, so I'm going to mine tomorrow. I expect there to be mostly control decks. I think that is just the current strategy around that deck to beat some other decks is extremely easy. So I expect a lot of it. And then obviously if you pick Bravo as your control deck, you have a pretty good matchup in a Prism. So if you're going into a highly densely populated Prism area, and then you have some good matchups against other decks, you think you do, then I think it's probably a great pick, and I think a lot of people will be on it. I don't know how that mirror plays out. I think the mirror seems like it might be...
Prism mirror?
No, the Bravo mirror. It seems like it
Oh,
might be decently skill intensive.
it
So
is. Yeah, well, it used to
yeah,
be anyway. I'm sure it's still the same. Although as these decks cut defense reactions a
I
bit
like
more,
it.
it could get a little
Yeah,
bit. It used to be like a 50-minute slog though, where like you did have to definitely set up your deck.
yeah,
You were
yeah.
trading like resources, like trading your defense reactions, trying to draw your opponent's defense reactions through the first sort of go through the deck. It's pretty interesting actually. Much better than the Prism Mirror though, which I have experienced a few times now, and I
Yeah, it's a
actively
pain.
don't want to play Prism because I don't want to play mirrors. I mean that's one of the reasons, but it's interesting. You talk about, you said, Bravo, good matchup into Prism. I know there'd be some people out there who would disagree with you, Brendan. So you have to be careful. I think our personal view is that
I
it's tougher to be on the Prism side of that. But I did want to say, I was thinking about this the other day, and I've made a pledge, Brendan, and I'm gonna share it on Time in the Round. Is that I'm gonna actively try to stop talking about things as being like good or bad matchups, or like they have a 60% matchup or 70% win rate, because it really is in this game so dependent on like play skill and deck builds. But
pilot.
yeah,
Yeah.
100% it is. But I do think that naturally, if you just talk about classes or play styles or structures of the most popular sort of meta decks, then I think it's pretty reasonable to say one hero or one build has a better matchup than the other into each other. I think that's pretty reasonable. But I'm just going to make a pledge that I'm going to try and talk more in that vein rather than this deck just it's unwinnable, or it's got such a good matchup. It's like 70% win rate.
Yeah. I pretty much I never use the unwinnable word. It's thrown around so much. I feel like I have such a, like with the deck that I'm bringing to Regi Nationals, I have such a good matchup into so many matches that people have quoted as unwinnable. They're actually like the ones I think that I'm favored in, to be honest. But I've obviously focused on it. So there's just something I want to go back to. Is like you said, the Bravo mirror was used to be skill intensive. You corrected yourself, and I think that's just like the Monarch asterisk on anything. It's like, is it skill intensive? It used to be, and then Monarch came out, and like now it's not. So,
I probably, to be fair, so the reason I said it used to be is that I actually haven't played much of the Bravo Mirror since Monarch came out. I think I've played maybe 1 or 2 games of the Bravo Mirror. It still feels, I think it's just because you drop your defense reaction suite to what it used to be. So I think it maybe is a little bit less, like you can sort of have these really strong draws to crush effects that your opponent can't deal with as well as they used to be able to by early game, mid game, late game, where now you can actually have like a bit more variance added into, because your deck's not probably as linear, I guess, in some ways, as like a more defensive deck. So that's all I meant by that, to be honest.
I know. I just like to dig at Monarch. Monarch is it's been an interesting set for Classic Constructed for me. Basically, yeah, been in a little bit of depression, but we'll see. Maybe Arya will take me out.
Well,
But
you know what? I think we've got a
yeah,
good deck for Road to National season at the very least. So you can go do some work there and then move on to Nationals with Tales of Aria. Speaking of what's happening in the meta and heroes and the Classic Constructor format, I want to talk about a change that's happened this week in the way that and Brendan's already smiling. I know he's getting excited by this, but there's been a change.
No, it's just the way you said it. Yeah, the way you said it. It's
I
like,
was just trying to get into this.
There's a pun in there, right? A change.
Dude, you don't have to explain. It's trying to be subtle, I'm trying to be subtle about it.
I don't know why. I don't know if that's what you're going for, but I just hear it when you say it.
I'll say it was. Let's say it was. A change to the Living Legend status and how Living Legend works in this game. So for those that might not be familiar, because it's actually something that's not talked about heaps because it hasn't been relevant yet. The system's changed twice, I think, already. This is the third time this is the second time it's changed the Living Legend status. So basically, Living Legend status, or Living Legend, is the way that LSS and Flesh and Blood as a game use to, I guess, manage rotation. They don't have true rotation like you have in other TCGs where sets drop off. Instead, when heroes get to a certain number of wins, they become retired. They go into Living Legend status. As we've had more players in Living Legend status than we have heroes so far. So the original Living Legend status, or where we were previously, was 10 professional wins, and that hero would achieve Living Legend. So that was Callings, Pro Tours, Worlds. I don't know if Nationals counted. I have to actually go and look. I assume it Nationals counted as well. I'm pretty sure it did. So I think Guardian had the most at 3 because there was 3 limited callings won by Bravo. Wasn't it,
Such a
Brendan?
weird.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. I mean, it's just so weird that was like. I remember the original design didn't even make sense in like 2019. It was like, well, if like a class wins in like a limited 10 times, it gets banned and constructed. It was like, what?
Yeah,
It doesn't make any sense. And then, yeah, I don't know.
So, so they've done away with that system, and we have a new Living Legend rotation policy, basically from Legend Story Studios, which is a points-based Living Legend status, basically, where for each event that a hero wins, they will be assigned points, and this is at skirmish level and above, so not armories, but skirmishes, callings, nationals, pro tours, worlds will all assign points for a winning hero. And once a young hero gets to, so there's a difference, there's a delineation here between young heroes and adult heroes, so they are separate. So a blitz calling win, for instance, for Katsu wouldn't be counted towards Katsu the Wanderer as an adult hero. So 500 points for a young hero and 1,000 points for an adult hero. And the way they can get to that, I've actually just brought this up just so I can talk to it as opposed to just guess. There is the point system is basically that winning worlds is 300 Living Legend points. A Pro Tour is 200. A calling is 100. Weirdly, there's a change. US Nationals, specifically US Nationals, is 80, and then other Nationals are either 40 or 20, depending on how many players there are in the event.
Just superior region.
Clearly,
obviously.
yeah. I mean, bigger event, right? But Road to Nationals is 6 points. A Pro Quest or a PTI is 6 points, and a Skirmish is 3 points. So, a Skirmish, I guess outside of a calling, the main way that young heroes are going to get the points, for instance. But it does feel, 1,000 points for an adult hero does feel like it could add up pretty quickly. And we're going to talk about sort of, I guess, our views on this. But just quickly as well, I wanted to talk about where the current heroes are ranking in terms of points towards Living Legend status. Ira is currently leading, obviously winning a lot of skirmishes in Season 1, winning a calling as well at the start of the year. 196 points for Ira. That's 100 points from winning a combination of the first season of skirmishes, and I think 96 from the second season, plus the calling in there. So 196 points. Chain is actually now the second most at 63 points. Interestingly.
Young Chain, though, right? There's a
young
difference?
Young Chain. So, yeah. So, no adult hero. So, those are the young heroes. Adult hero, the highest currently is Katsu at 100, obviously winning a calling. And then Dash at 40, winning a Nationals. Dorinthia at 40, winning a Nationals, the Taiwanese Nationals. So, yeah, that's where we're currently at. I thought we'd just jump in and just get your thoughts on what you think of this change. Brendan, obviously, I know you didn't like the previous system. Do you think this is improvement?
I never said I didn't like the previous
Sure,
system.
you thought it didn't work. Didn't make sense.
No, yeah, it did. I mean, it didn't work. There's literally no one on the face of this planet that will argue with me that was a good system or that it worked. It didn't make any sense. But I was interested to see that Skirmish was in there. Makes sense, right? Because that is like something that we all experience. I don't know. It's common, but I thought they were too casual to be contributing to Living Legend statuses. But I guess it kind of does make sense if you are playing like a ton of Blitz and it's just dominated by one deck. I guess it does. Eventually, the Skirmish stuff adds up. But I know that I've heard concerns that this system may be too fast for certain heroes. I don't know about it in practice because I feel like you have to. I don't know if you've done the math yet about how fast if a hero could get banned in the same set that it was released. Is that possible?
So, sorry, I should just to clarify this. A hero becomes banned upon the next booster set being released. So if say Chain, for instance, racked up a ton of Road to Nationals wins. Obviously, it was already just won a Road to Nationals. That's 6 points to its name. Say it racks up a bunch of wins a calling. It wins a Pro Tour. Gets banned, and then it could be at over 1,000 points, but it would actually stay unbanned until unretired on Living Legend until we got to the next set, Tales of Aria release, and then at that point that hero would retire into Living Legend status.
That's really interesting because what if the next set is a supplemental set and you get like the Shadow? Like right now we only have one Shadow Runeblade, right?
Yep.
So based off this like what you said,
Yeah.
say that the next set was a supplemental set. Chain has reactive 1,000 points. Chain gets banned. We have no Shadow Runeblade hero, and then the supplemental set introduces this, a bunch of Shadow Runeblade stuff. That'd be kind of weird, right?
Yeah. Or we just don't have that, right? We just don't have another Shadow Runeblade for another year, and someone who's
or like a while.
someone who's bought into the Shadow Runeblade class and that's what they want to play, maybe can't because those cards. Yeah.
I'm less worried about that. That's I think that's kind of like that happens in card games. Stuff gets banned that people buy into that's ultra powerful and not healthy for the format. But it is weird to be actively buying a new product that contains cards for a class that is literally unplayable by the rules of the game.
Yeah, that is a concern. I wonder if they, that to say not for supplemental sets. To be fair, to be clear as well, though, we don't actually know for certain that supplemental sets are confirmed, right? Like, we don't know we're going to always get a supplemental set.
I would bet my firstborn that we are.
Yeah, I would assume, but I actually can't remember if it's been... Yeah, I just can't remember. I mean, it fits, right? I do remember they said the structure is like 2 sets, supplemental set, like that's how the game had been designed, but I don't know if they've actually committed to say that means that every 2 sets you get a supplemental set or not. Someone will, drop us a comment. Someone will correct us. I'm not looking it up right now. So someone let us know. But
it's funny because supplemental sets. I was originally pretty unexcited about Crucible. I'm a big fan of Limited, but now I'm waiting for the next supplemental set more than anything because those things are so exciting. If you look back at Crucible, almost every single card we got was trying to tell us a story. And I know we've said this on the main pod before, but it's just fascinating because it seems like everything you're given, or nearly everything, is kind of a tool in like a new toolkit, and it's very archetype defining. I think those sets are extremely exciting if you've been playing a lot of constructed, both Blitz and Classic. So honestly, I'm excited for Arya. I think it's gonna be cool. Maybe we'll get a new wizard. But to be honest, that Arya is kind of whatever to me compared to the supplemental set, which I expect to come after, because that's what really shakes up everything.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was actually pretty excited by Crucible personally before it even hit, and I think after it hit, I was just like the power level of the cards and the, like you said, like the archetype, I guess, like specificity of the cards was like really cool and quite fun to explore. And I think we're still going to be able to explore Crucible for a while to come. And of course, Crucible Unlimited just dropped literally yesterday worldwide, so now even more players have access to that product, which is awesome. And we're going to touch on Crucible at the end of this pod. But yeah, just going back to the Living Legend status, I guess my kind of initial reaction is I have a bit of concern about this. I want to touch on the skirmish piece because you said it feels like maybe it could have been too casual. I think it's actually really important to have a way for rotation to happen for the entry level sides of the game, which is armories and skirmishes at tier 1, right? So Blitz is a great entry-level format, and if there's no way that rotation happens through that, then you could just be sat with classes that either dominate or they just hang around for so long that they actually warp the meta and allow other heroes to never be played at a constant sort of even semi-competitive level. Whereas if you go through and say Iroh, it seems like it's going to be the first to get banned. Well, then that means if you want to play Flick Flack, you have to play Katsu, and that changes the dynamic of the format. You probably allows other decks to come into the fold. So I think it's actually a really good way to have.
Can you imagine playing Kano without Ira?
I would be playing other decks, I think, at that point, to be honest. But anyway, I think it's actually really good for the game in terms of having that act at a skirmish level. I think some of the points allotted for certain things like the US nationals versus other nationals versus smaller nationals versus PTIs is a little bit arbitrary. It feels like they've had to just come up with a number, right? And then they've come up with a ratio, right? And work backwards to what that number looks like. And my kind of biggest concern with it is that I don't think it scales, right? Because they've put a target on the number. So if you say 500 for a young hero, and that's based off the fact that Ira is already nearly at 200, and skirmish is triple next skirmish season because new regions of the world open up to the game. We get more stores getting skirmishes. We just have, it's effectively a game day is what a skirmish is, right? Like if you compare it to what Magic has, those kind of game days for reset, like that's the level a skirmish is at. It's entry level, it's casual play. So if you triple the count of skirmishes next season, does that mean you need to grow that living legend point status. Like, it just doesn't feel super scalable to me, is kind of my concern. And it doesn't feel like they can really manage, because you could have, right, so we might not get living legend status for our first adult hero until midway through next year, because we might not have a pro tour until next year, or like mid next year. We might not have worlds until mid next year. And those are the ones that are going to really be catalysts for these heroes getting to living legend, because it takes you one worlds as opposed to, what are we at, like 6 points per thing, right? So 15 road to nationals or whatever. So it's like, it feels like it's not, it does just, to me, it doesn't feel super scalable. And I think there could be some concerns about just the points number that are associated to it.
I'm more on the cautiously optimistic side, but I also haven't done too much thinking about it. So I like the idea. I don't know. I feel like it's one of the systems where if it is out of hand and it doesn't make sense, with like the execution, and we start seeing more bans than we expected, and it's just kind of lame, you can always just roll it back and change it. Like they're not Wizards or Hasbro, so I think they can make those changes pretty easily. They just, hey, this sucks, and then we change it. But I do like the concept of, at least in Blitz, the concept of heroes rotating in and out.
Yes.
It is weird though, because for me this isn't an issue, but I just know that it's an issue for a lot of people out there. Is that like I know a lot of people bought, like this is we've talked about this a lot, but a very hero centric kind of game. There's like some RPG elements. There's like identities and stuff, and people could literally buy into a certain class, like buy into Ira, and that's like the class they play. Or like, not a lot of people say that, so we just look at it like Dorinthia. Like a lot of people play Dorinthia as like that's their class, that's all they play, that's all they do. And they could play casually, and then that class could get banned by people who are not casual, and it affects them, and now they can't play it like their FNM and stuff like that. For me, it doesn't affect me at all, because obviously I have all the cards and play all the classes, and that's not even a flex. It's just I am not in that situation, so I feel like I'm kind of I don't empathize with it enough, so I try to like put myself in their shoes. So that definitely could suck for them. But who knows? I don't know if that's going to be like a major deterrent for people or what. But it's going to be funny when we have an Eternal format in like, I don't know, a couple years. And I'm just going to be soul shackling my life away in the Eternal format.
Well, yeah. Presumably at some point we get the afterlife. We get the retirement home as the format. But I think it's
retirement home.
we go to the retirement home. That's a good point though, right? Like about the fact that you have players impacting it who might not, if you're, as you say, if you're someone who's casual, or you just play at armory level, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this really high power level deck was discovered and just took over a whole season, and now I can't play my different version that uses the same hero at like my armory event or whatever. What I do hope though is that they're nimble and flexible enough with their design of sets in the game that people wouldn't be too long without another hero that would fit in there. And I think by the time we get to, I'm going to transition into my positives for this, because I don't, it's not all negatives. I actually do think this system is a good system in terms of the idea behind it. That LSS would transition to have heroes coming into new sets with the possibility of even supplement sets, like introducing new young heroes like they have in the past of the Crucible for Blitz, which is, I think,
like a secret layer series where we all just pump in our money and we do all these collabs.
No. Like a supplemental set like we have with Crucible, and you get new young heroes. You get your Benji, you get your KO, you get your Datadol, you get your Kevdan. Those are obviously really good examples of those heroes. But
Cyberpunk 2077 Datadol crossover, like MSRP like $800, like it sounds pretty nice to me. But yeah, for me the weirdest thing is like, I just have to, like, when I think about kind of like class centric gameplay, a lot of times I think about Hearthstone. So like say Ira got banned, you still got Katsu, you still got Benji, you've like literally got ninjas to play the ninja class. But like, I'm assuming this is like kind of a corner case, but there are some classes there is only one hero. So like say we're playing Blitz. Yeah, exactly. And this is obviously meant to affect us in the future. So say we're playing Blitz and Shadow Runeblade gets banned. Like, can't use any of my cards. Can't use any of my Shadow Runeblade cards. And that's weird for like, because you wouldn't play Hearthstone. It's like, okay, Hunter is banned. It's like, what? It's like a card would be banned. So I know when they do ban a hero, it does affect like 2-3 cards, their specializations. But it does look like in the current design space, we could get into some weird situations, but maybe, and I assume that they've mapped it out to where it's almost impossible for that to happen. Because like there's probably release new class with one hero, and then X number of time passes, and then another hero for that class is released in like a supplemental or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's very, very, very unlikely that during that time that this hero will rack up X number of points. Like they'd have to run it like a 90% or 100% clip on wins or something like that.
Yeah, which is good, right? And to your point, if we had a hero with maybe we got Bravo, became Living Legend status in Blitz really quickly next season for whatever reason, and then all the Guardian players go, well, what do I play? Okay, well, maybe LSS have Waiting in the Wings in the next supplementary set to just drop a young Guardian, just to allow people to play with those cards. And that could actually be a really interesting design space to explore anyway, with bringing in these new young heroes that could be do something completely different with the already established set of cards, which is actually like a really cool way to do it. Or it even could be adult heroes, but I would assume that they would try and stray away from that a little bit because it could get a little bit messy. But Classic Constructed is like their premier competitive format from a constructed side, right? It's not Blitz. That's more aimed at their sort of capping out at calling. We might get a pro tour at some point that's Blitz, but I assume that it's going to be limited, and Classic Constructed is going to be.
You think so?
I think we might get a Blitz pro tour. I mean, I look at in the past, other games have done some of their more entry level, I guess, casual quote unquote formats once a year at a more premier level event to just give it hype, right? To give it the spotlight, to give it the attention. So we could see that, but yeah, I don't think they're gonna start to, I guess, if they're not gonna be as concerned about Classic Constructed if people can't play certain class cards. I think because Blitz is always there as that more casual format anyway. So I don't think if they're like, okay, well, Dorinthia's Living Legend. Okay, we're not gonna try and fix this to appease people to be able to play with certain, warrior cards or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we have multiple warriors. Yeah. The only issue I like see, but like I said, I haven't thunk it out or mathed it. That yeah, like an entire class like gets banned, right? Yeah. Essentially because there's no hero. That would be obviously that's definitely not the design. There's no way that's the design, and people would be in uproar if that happened.
Sorry, I should have clarified. I would also put Bravo or Chain in that camp. Like, I don't think they'd be as concerned if for 6 to 9 months people in Classic Constructed specifically couldn't play those class cards. I don't think they would be as concerned. I think they'd be more concerned with.
To be fair, I think they're like yes, but also like the casuals will lose their mind.
Yeah, right? I don't think it would happen. To your point, I don't think it would happen, but I just am more certain that Blitz would be the one where they would say, like, we can't let this happen. Whereas if for some reason they had to be like, we really don't want to have this hero because maybe there's a balance issue or something, then, I think you've got to do what you've got to do, right, to keep a healthy format. Anyway, yeah, I do think overall I just want to go back to kind of positive. I actually think this idea of retiring and using the Living Legend status for heroes is actually really cool and allows for classes and design spaces to stay on, but with maybe some changes because the hero maybe causes an issue in that design space, or it's just been around long enough that you get a refresh. It just changes the game up without actually taking sets of cards away from people. You still get to play with cards you love, or that you get to even have cards that have been around for 5-6 years potentially in the future that have never seen competitive play, that all of a sudden become viable because of this hero moving out and another hero coming in, for instance. So I actually do really like the concept. I'm just a little bit concerned about the execution, but as always, I will always give LSS the benefit of the doubt and see what happens.
Yes, a definite improvement from.
Yes, I agree on that. I agree, definitely an improvement. I think maybe a little.
Maybe we will see some changes eventually, sooner than we expected.
Religion changes. Cool. All right. Well. Anything else to say on Living Legend status, Brendan, before we move on?
No, I think that fully encompasses it.
Yeah, cool. This is, I think, some of the most research I've done for a time in the round. I actually had the web page up so I could refer to it, so I didn't balls up anything that I was saying about the changes to Living Legend status, and then people comment and go, actually, you've got it wrong. That's it's 550 points, or you're stupid. So we're covered, don't worry.
People being critical of what you say on the channel? No way. It's never happened.
Well, the good thing, people right now are scouring back through past episodes to find you saying unwinnable, and they're gonna put a compilation together of Brendan saying things are unwinnable, because I've definitely heard you say that. So watch out.
Don't trust what I say on camera, because sometimes it's a little spicy.
Cool. Well, I wanted to do something a little bit different to round out time in the round this week, and
the finance section. Let's go.
Yeah, we are starting a finance section on. No, we're not. We're definitely not. Of course, we're not starting a finance section. We're never starting a finance section, but something that is encroaching on something that I guess we wouldn't normally do. I am going to crack the seal on a box that is sitting next to me, Brennan, because I'm going to open a couple of packs of Crucible of War. Crucible of War Unlimited obviously dropped this week. It's been out in our hands for just over 24 hours. Something a little bit different. I'm going to, in a minute, swap to a top-down view as well for us, and crack a couple of packs. What we're going to do is I'm just going to open the pack, spread it out, and Brendan, we're going to pick out a couple of cards each to talk about in Crucible of War. We talked about how exciting supplementary sets are in terms of the design space, and that there's narratives and things being told there. And I know in the past we've done top 5 cards that are underrated or top 5 cards that are overplayed, rather than just being, I guess it's a little more scripted, in keeping with time in the round. Let's just pull some cards out and just talk about a couple of cards that maybe we think.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited for this. But it's funny, as you see us, we moved to opening a box. Arsenal Pass is just slowly getting more and more sellout. I think in a couple of months, Hayden's going to be in a hot tub, writing your names on his chest, all that good stuff.
It's, of course, a very nice, smooth transition there. No jerky cuts at all. I've got the box here, Brendan. I actually think you can see this because you've got the top-down camera on our chat, don't you? So you can.
Yep, I just watched you repack it while you turned off the camera and edited it. So
yeah, well, I don't really care.
All comments here.
Couldn't really care if it's all that. Well, exactly. All right. This will probably be the only time you see us cracking packs on a video. So.
He's just ripping through them?
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to see.
Oh!
I'm not used to this. It's not something. All right, I'm just going to go through, lay these out. I've got 2 Ranger cards, so, that's already a big, massive plus there. We've got 2 Ninja cards.
You got a Twinning Blade.
Yeah. We've got 2 Reinforce the Line, and we've got a Twinning Blade, so that's a nice wee Majestic from my first pack there, so thank you. All right, Brendan, why don't you just load a card to... These cards grab your eye that you want to talk about for whatever reason whatsoever. Could be
you've got you do have the best card in Flesh and Blood sitting there, and that's going to be Sleep Dart. Maybe not in blue, but this is the epitome of theory in Flesh and Blood. Is this card's effectiveness versus heroes? I think we're going to hear it quoted forever as more sets come out, more heroes get spoiled. Is dang, Sleep Dart would be good here, but yeah. I mean, other than that, obviously Flying Kick as an introduction. I think my camera might be slightly
yellow,
but Flying Kick as an introduction to Ira is huge, and the Twinning Blade is a big one for me. I love Twinning Blade, Glint Twinning, all this kind of stuff to let you kind of have a pseudo second ability on Dorothea's sword.
Yeah, your camera's frozen.
I'll just do the old flick on, flick off. So Screen Reader's gonna go crazy.
And I'm not even going to edit that out. Usually I might even bother editing it out. I'm not going to. All right.
No.
Flying Kick. Good intro.
Flying Kick. Yeah, so talk to me about what you think. I mean, I think Pathing Helix is a really cool card too. Just hasn't really seen play.
Yeah, Pathing Helix is an interesting card. That if it hits and you have no cards on Arsenal, you can put a card from your hand to Arsenal. Getting cards into Arsenal, especially... Well, I was going to say face up, but this is face down anyway. But just getting cards into Arsenal outside of reload is obviously really difficult. You only have your bow to do it. One card I actually do think is, I do want to mention, Chokeslam. So we actually saw Red Chokeslam being played in the Devastation Bravo deck that Jacob played this week. I think it's a card that is clearly, people are playing for a certain medical, attacks can't gain attack. So Katsu, Chain even. Reasons that people are starting to play this. Overblast as well. This is a red one here, but in blue, I've actually really liked this in dash decks, especially dash boost decks, where you have this blue that actually, can potentially become a 4/5/6 attack at the end of a chain as you cycle back through your deck. At red, I've played a couple before. Attacking for 8 or 9 on a chain is really nice. So it's quite a cool card. I expect to see this have more play as we maybe see dash come back into the meta at some point in a a form that's
What
not
do you
controlled.
mean at some point?
Yeah,
I was going to say, I was like, it's. I think it had a quite popular showing.
Oh yeah, come back.
Recently.
I'm saying come back into the format at some point as a non-control deck. And I think just Twinning Blade, a card that we saw played a lot when Unmovable was really popular in the Crucible meta, is probably still seeing play, but like we didn't see as much play in the Blitz format, for instance. Dorinthia seems to be seeing less play in this constructed format, but I actually think this card is super interesting, to be honest. Yeah, I just wanted to know as well. I've got this is the Japanese card stock. So these packs. I don't know if all Crucible printed in Japan, unlimited, but holding my first time holding the Japanese card stock. It feels different.
Yeah, what's the first impressions? Let's get it.
Well, so I know. So people know if they remember that there was some issues with Crucible originally. That there was like damages to edges and edge wear and things like that. Which, to be honest, didn't really bother me. I know there was some stuff, obviously, on higher end cards that people might have been a bit upset about, but this doesn't seem as bad. Some of the edges feel maybe not perfect, and the card stock feels a bit different, but the foiling actually looks really cool on the rainbow foils. It feels like it's a bit more sort of like a really matte finish and stands out quite a lot. It's quite nice. I like that. Anyway.
Now, speaking of the Crucible War. Oh, sorry. I actually had something pretty interesting happen to me in Crucible War because I opened like 5 cases. I think I had the only instance of this happening.
First edition?
First edition. So I think I had the only instance of this happening, which is like my Cold Foil Crater Fist and Rattlebones. And it was the only pack it happened on. It happened on my money pack. The glue had actually gone through the pack, and it was like had gone onto the back card and seeped through the back card onto the Cold Foil. Bro, you got to go slow. You can't just be ripping. What is this?
It's not my usual trait, is it? Keep going with your story. I'll lay this out and then we can talk about
it. Yeah. So I actually had that one replaced. I actually used the system.
There we go.
But it's pretty uncommon, I think, to have that happen. Cash in and the Zephyr Needle.
Yeah. Thoughts?
Techno-Vessen's Workshop. What do you think of this card? This is actually the Discord's spoiler back in Crucible War. Yeah, it was.
Since I saw this card, I was like, okay, how can I use this card? Like, I was super amped to try and use this card in some way. My first thought was like Data Doll, obviously, because that was the kind of young hero that we got with Crucible. And I was like, okay, at the time. So my favorite sort of deck to play when Crucible first came out in Classic Constructed, because there was no events to play, so I was just messing around with, I'd say, less competitive builds of things. I was playing a lot of just like hyper boost dash aggressive decks, right? Like literally like 74, 73 card decks, just shuffle them up, play it, boost my whole deck. I was playing the shotgun all the time as well, messing around with different builds, the plasma barrel shot that came in Crucible. And I was like, surely there's a way to make this card good, right? Like I can maybe play non-mechanologist cards like Plunder On or something and like find a way to like opt my cards and set up my boosts and stuff. But I never did anything with it, to be honest. But it's an interesting card, right? Like you boost 3 times, opt 3 times, which is, opt 3 cards is pretty reasonable. And if the top card you reveal then costs 2 or less, you can put it straight into the arena. So it's like a pretty powerful effect, right? Like it's effectively put a card into play from the top of you. Opt 3 if you banish, say you boost 3 times, opt 3, put a card into play. Like that's pretty strong, right? Especially if it's an item which is some of the strongest cards in your deck. But it just takes like a lot of work, yeah.
Yeah, this card is like for me, it's kind of a symbol to show how far the Discord has come since Crucible, because this is our Crucible spoiler, and then we got Blasphemous in Monarch. So big steps up.
What you're saying is you went from a common to a token.
I mean, I guess it was a downgrade in that sense.
I've only ever had Majestics, so I wouldn't know about that.
It's true. You are spoiled for spoilers over there.
Spoilers. I think like the cards. The Cashin's a really interesting card, right? Like we saw Dorinthia's try and play it originally with like spoilers before. I think people realized that was pretty bad pretty quickly in competitive classic decks. Kasai, obviously, and Blitz though people are playing Cashin.
The Needle is a massive card, though.
Yeah, super important card, right?
Yeah, Needle in Ira has swung a lot of matchups that weren't originally favorable, like the Dorinthia matchup. Honestly, Needle's played in almost every matchup nowadays, even if they have defense reactions, because there's ways you can play it to where it's very effective.
And the decks are so aggressive.
Yeah, one of my friends plays Needle into Chain religiously. especially if because he wants to get Husk as soon as possible. So the needle just breaks instantly, but it breaks the Husk.
I'm on board that plan, to be honest, having played a few games.
I'm on board with it as well because it's usually also equivalent to 3 damage, at least in the game. Unless you get Hyrule with an Art of War, which is the game nowadays. But what do you think of Rousing Ether? I know we've talked about this one on the pod. It's pretty fascinating for how expensive it is and the effect. I've played it as a blue, but I mean it's pretty much filler at that point, right?
Yeah, I mean actually in Classic Constructed, I actually quite like the blue because just of the amplify effect in a lot of matchups in Classic Constructed, people have less access to Null Rune, right? Like because you don't just have 10 slots that you just like, okay, 4 or 3 is Null Rune or 3 is Null Rune, 1 Spell Void, whatever. You don't have that, so the blue can actually be really impactful to like flip off, deal 2 damage, even like hit it into something else, into blazing. Like you can do these really cool kind of like 3 card stacks in Classic Constructed with cards like Rousing. I tried the red for a little bit in Classic Constructed even, just to see how much I liked it. Yeah. But the you just have too many cards that cost 2 and over, and Rousing Ether is probably like one of the lower ones. But I don't know, we might see. I always think about these cards. Every time I look at Crucible cards, I'm like, what cards were meant for the current heroes and what cards are meant for future heroes? Because we've kind of already seen that with some of the, like the Monarch cards that have come out. Some cards that work well with Bolton, some cards that work well with Shadow Runeblade. So yeah, last card I wanted to. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, before I was rudely interrupted. Not kidding. I interrupted you. No. But I think that like every card, like a lot of the cards in Crucible, they're very purposefully designed. Like they have specific, needs now or needs in the future that they're trying to meet. Where I do feel like I get some essence of fluff in like a normal sense. Not like I'm not saying like. If a card's not being played, it's bad. But in Crucible, it feels like literally every single card that's printed is, has kind of a specific, effective and actual playable design in mind.
Yeah. So I have a really good example of that, I think, and the reason for that, right, is because of limited. Like the sets are designed for limited. So I'm a Talisman of Dowsing. Is like a limited card. I mean, I'm fairly certain there's a limited card, or Rusted Relic from Arcane Rising, which is the blue aura. Is it an aura? Must be an aura. Stays in play.
It's an item.
Item. That gives you spell Null Rune 1, Arcane Barrier 1. Sorry. So like those cards to me feel like pure design space situated in limited, whereas Crucible fully constructed, right? It's a supplemental set for constructed. So in essence, every card should have some play into Classic Constructed, whether that's now or whether that's in the future.
Is Rusted Relic a super or a rare?
It's a super.
So I don't think it's a limited card.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because I so my original thought was that it is, but then when we learned that supers were just Majestics, different title to allow people to understand the power level of Majestics, which is something that LSS came out and said when they removed supers. I don't know. Maybe it does have playing constructed at some point, but I guess maybe the Talisman of Dowsing is a better example of a card that's limited design.
I just can't wait for you to eat these words in the future.
Yeah. If James White hears this, might get a tweet. Last card I wanted to talk about actually is Predatory Assault. I think there's actually 3 really interesting brew cards here. Riled Up, Swing Fist, Think Later, which is a great name. It's right up there with Swing with Big Tree. And
Bellows of Hell. What is it?
Oh, Convulsions from the Bellows of Hell. It's obviously a great name. The brew cards just have fantastic names. Sandscape Plan. Anyway, Predatory Assault is probably the one that I think is quite a super interesting card. So it's if you've discarded a card with 6 or more attack this turn, Predatory Assault gains Dominate. The red has 6 attack, obviously costs 2. That you can actually use with Tear Limb from Limb, obviously a new card from Monarch. There's like a really cool interaction there where you Tear Limb from Limb into a Predatory Assault for 12 Dominate. Like it was my first thing I wanted to do as soon as I saw Tear Limb from Limb. I was like, oh, cool, I'm definitely playing a Blitz deck that has Predatory Assault in it. Unfortunately, Ira's pretty tough matchup, so it's not the best thing to do, but it's fun. And I think, a card like Predatory Assault with Levia maybe has some play space. Like the new cards from Monarch, like Deadwood Rumbler, right? Like a draw discard there. So it feels like those cards have some maybe some interaction. And what's the other one? Pulping, which is a brute card. in of itself.
Mhm.
Like there's probably some stuff there, pulping into a predatory assault dominates, no slouch. So yeah. Anyway,
What's funny is that I actually think the most interesting card in this pack is Increased Attention, because it's meant to target a specific meta.
yeah.
I know that it doesn't see much play, like the class that it's designed for, but when this was released, we were in still somewhat of a defense reaction format, so I think it's a pretty fascinating card.
We might get back there, right?
Yeah, we might get back there. I mean, honestly, I enjoyed the defense reaction format more than I do this format because it felt more like higher skill.
Yeah, I don't think I'd say that, to be honest. I disliked probably the latter end of the defense reaction format. It was kind of weird because they literally printed cards that said don't play defense reactions in your deck in Command and Conquer. Like don't play, and these cards that required setups. And I think it took a while for us as the player base to like cotton on to like how to build decks a bit more efficiently, especially aggro decks. Like in the Crucible of War meta, like I think I've said this a few times. Like I think there was two really strong proactive / aggressive decks in the format that just didn't see play because we're still really attached to like defense reactions. That being the aggressive ninja deck and the like brute claws kind of combo deck.
Yeah. To be fair, I didn't play Arcane Rising or Crucible because of
piked out
of Covey. Actually, it took. It's funny because we play so much nowadays, and
you make up for it.
Kind of so involved in the game. But I actually didn't play this game for quite a long period of time after that New Zealand calling, because once COVID happened, there was like no US players anyway, and there was hardly any online events unless you wanted to play with like 200 ping in the middle of the night.
You could get stock, right? Like that was the thing, is that the US release was reasonably small because the game was a small release to start with, and then until we had unlimited, it was like impossible to get stock, right? And so there was some demand, but people just couldn't get stock anyway, even if they wanted to play. So and in a pandemic when physical stores aren't open, there's less, I guess, word of mouth transit happening.
So yeah, I know Arcane Rising I had no problem getting. Like it was around for a while.
Yeah.
And then I remember when it sold out, but it was really Crucible. Crucible was like you either bought in when it came out, and it wasn't that hard. Like you didn't have to like nowadays it's a freaking job to try to buy a piece of product if you want first edition. But back then, yeah, you could. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, you don't live in the
get your Tales of Aria stuff apparently.
Well, yeah, that's because the market was dog water for
We're not. Whoa! You encroaching.
I told you, finance sections. It's happening.
Careful.
But Crucible was like Crucible. We stood like it was very, very standard. So it released, and you could buy it, and it was normal, normal price. But after the first week, it sold out, which was unusual. No one really expected that, especially at a supplementary set. And then like they had like waves, and they would sell it in a week. And then it was gone. Yeah. And then it was gone. And it really never came back. But I think that the releases, like in terms of product, were relatively easy to get. Not compared to today's easy to get, but it wasn't really until Monarch that perceived supply just evaporated,
Yeah. I'm not gonna comment. I don't want to. It's not my area of interest or expertise, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. All right, Brendan. Well, we talked about some Crucible cards. It's the first time we've cracked some packs on a video. Cool to see some new card stock. I guess obviously the game's growing, and the company are printing cards not just in Belgium, I guess is where they printed the first lot. Now we're seeing cards come out of Japan. Crucible Unlimited's here, so people can get the cards they want. I've seen some really good secondary prices on chase cards like Tunics and Courage of Blade Holds and Spores of War and all these cards, so people can go out and maybe get the cards they haven't had access to over the past sort of few months, trying to get into Classic Constructed or Blitz. So maybe you've had 2 copies of the cards you want. Now you can go get out your 3rd copy ready for Classic Constructed now the cards are here and available. So anyway, Brendan.
Yep, it's very good. Yeah, anyway, active player turn 0, 1 additional turn.
It's time in the round.